We're here on the edge of Poole Harbour on an area of grazing marsh which we're seeking to transition into intertidal habitat. This is something we need to do according to our plans to deal with sea level rise, to deal with some of the habitat losses elsewhere within the harbour, to make up for the designated protected habitats, and to work on defending other areas within the harbour for the next 100 years.
We're standing in the middle of our moors where we are currently building the Moors at Arne scheme. Arne is a very complex site with a lot of ecology constraints, so reacting to that change and planning accordingly, making sure we do everything in a safe manner as well and to the quality we need to build it to is really, really important.
Where we've investigated the site, we've actually found that towards the end of the prehistoric period, those little islands are a focus for human activity.
And we're finding a whole series of roundhouse ring gullies, so we're excavating it to make a record of it, to understand it, and we're required to do that by legislation, by planning policy framework. Requires any developer who's going to damage archaeology to either try and preserve it, ideally, but if they can't preserve it, then it's excavated and recorded. And the finds are kept and put in a museum so people can study them in the future. And most archaeology is funded that way. Commercial archaeology is funded by development.
And we certainly see archaeological work as something that contributes to that sustainable development theme. It's a really important part of seeing our heritage as a finite resource which we need to look after for future generations. So that's what we're doing, and that's why we're here today.
It's really, really interesting because it's really good to get people involved in the scheme, see what's going on, also give them hands-on experience. Today they're looking at the archaeology, learning how to do some investigations, something they probably haven't really done before. It's really important to get people involved, I'd say, because they need to understand how difficult and challenging the site is, but also what we're going to create in the end.
Today, one of the volunteers has found a really nice flint blade, potentially early Neolithic flint blade, in one of the ditches. The oval one, where the flint blade came from, may actually be a lot earlier than we're thinking. So it may be this site is actually something to do with ritual activity, perhaps burials, excarnation sites, something like that. And perhaps later people have come along and built their own structures, these round ring gullies. We've got a whole series of these spread along this ridge. If it's not ritual, then the only other possibilities is perhaps seasonal. They're coming here to graze their livestock, perhaps gather reeds, and hunt and fish.
There's a lot of information which we get from sites like Arne that enable us to talk about the way that people have adapted to changes in the climate, sea level rise, and the way that people have been adaptive over the years. So it's a really important story. We know it's important for the local residents and for the people that live in this community. This is their story which we're trying to capture as part of the scheme, and we obviously see it as a really important part of creating a better place.